much for watching my video. My name is Breezy and I am a trauma-informed yoga teacher. I specialize in teaching you how to heal thyself. And there is a multitude of modalities that we utilize to get there. And I call this work yoga off of the mat. So today we are going to talk about addiction. Addiction is really systematic of parental or caregiver attachment styles, which we've talked about on Love Breezy Bree. And it is also a precursor to how we get along in our romantic, intimate relationships. So if there's been addiction present in those relationships, then you know for a fact that where addiction lies, intimacy cannot thrive. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about why that's so toxic other than the obvious, and how we can begin to do the work of healing our lives. Whether we are the ones that are suffering from an addiction issue or we love someone who is. Now, before we get started, I would appreciate your subscription to Love Breezy Bree YouTube channel, as well as a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay, so let's get started. Let's talk about this. So what is addiction? Now, addiction isn't just the obvious stuff that many of us think about when we hear the word, right? It is being all consumed by something else to the point where your day-to-day activities in life are being compromised. So rather you're addicted to drugs, alcohol, you're addicted to gambling, you're addicted to sex or porn, or you're addicted to video games or social media, whatever it may be, if it hinders your ability to participate in your life, then it is an addiction. Now, there are obviously different consequences to different addictions, whether they're illegal or not. But the point really is that you're connected to something to a point where it becomes a codependency, where you are not able to survive or even thrive without it. And if you're also trying to be in a relationship, especially a romantic, intimate relationship with another, you can already see where there's going to be a break in communication, in love, intimacy, probably even financial. And we all know that these are some of the top reasons why relationships end or divorces happen is because of lack of communication, lack of financial awareness or wellness or health, and a lack of being able to work together in partnership. So when we think about addiction and we think about whether it's us who are suffering from some sort of an addiction or someone we love, there is a codependency bond that is being created because we are not only codependent on the addiction, but either the person that we're involved with is codependent on us or us on them. There is a need to escape. It's escapism when we are suffering from an addiction. Now, many of us have had some variation of addictions in our lives. There's a spectrum, there's levels to it. As I mentioned, there's legal and illegal. And we've all, especially nowadays with social media, we've all been able to experience what it feels like to not be able to stop. Right? To have to trick yourself or convince yourself or promise yourself or even pray to your higher sources that if you could just break this bond with your addiction, that your life would be saved. And the truth is that this is work that we have to dig deeper into. Why are we addicted? Now, as I mentioned, with the levels to it from social media on up, there are many, many reasons why we might be influenced into our addictions. Now, when I think of social media or even think of porn, those are very animalistically used to be able to tweak our dopamine, right? So getting us to that high level where our brain is literally being tweaked, being rewired to where we're looking for that high again and again, and we're getting dopamine hits. And what are the two easiest dopamine hits to get? Well, it is social media hits and porn hits. Now, obviously, actual dope, right? Drugs is another dopamine hit. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about the illegal substances or the substances like alcohol that could be detrimental to life, you know, from driving while under the influence to possibly putting yourself and many others in danger, to not being able to function, to breaking down the body and the mind. And all of that is really important as well, because whenever we start to treat ourselves like we don't matter, right? That is also digging into our self-esteem, our confidence or lack thereof. And we have to do the work to figure out the why. Now, typically these addictions formulate in early childhood, again, with those attachments to parents or caregivers or traumas, different things that may have happened to us under the age of 5, under the age of 10, and so on. Different events in life that we have not learned to cope with, that we haven't properly grieved or been able to deal with in a way that's healthy. So how do we do the work? First is, as they always say, is you have to acknowledge where you're at. You know, I know for me, there's definitely been times in my life where I've been going through something really traumatic for me. And I might lean into escapisms. And I have a few that I know that I lean into. And I've worked really diligently to try to make sure I give myself some other options. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into things like eating disorders or, you know, people who excessively exercise, but these are also ways that I see in my practice people starting to manifest these different addictions, these different escapisms. And these ones are accepted by society in so many ways. Socially accepted addictions just feed into that, you know, being a workaholic. And again, there is so many spectrums and levels to this, but ultimately it all boils down to that same place in our heart, that same place in our solar plexus, that place where we feel so disconnected from self, where we don't feel safe and secure, we feel uprooted, and we're looking for something to take us out of our truth, when really we need to lean into it. Now, this isn't easy work. Some of the things that we should really consider doing is therapy. You know, therapy, working with a counselor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist is so vital. Having a beautiful, mindful, meditative practice like yoga, but can also be martial arts, Tai Chi, running, walking, swimming. There's many ways to make that mind, body, spirit connection. Getting involved in spiritual practices, for some that could be religious practices, for others it could just be deep meditation and prayer, centering and coming back to source, grounding your energy, and staying away from toxic environments, situations, and people. Now, what if you're in love with this type of scenario, right? This is your codependent relationship with another romantically or intimately. This is toxic. Okay, and it may not be intentionally toxic, but it is still toxic from the results. So you have to take stock of your life. You have to ask yourself, am I being codependent? Is someone being codependent with me? There's like a crazy fly around here. Or why am I in this scenario, right? And it doesn't mean that you abandon ship, but it does mean that you take accountability for your decisions, why you've chosen a person like this. Do they remind you of mom or dad or caregiver? And how many times have you repeated these cycles if you do find yourself with this type of individual multiple times throughout your life? Or if you're the person and you're trying to do the work, if you're the person and you're watching this video, you are doing the work. So just keep on this journey, on this path. I have many videos and guides. I have a whole entire podcast with over 400 episodes called Yoga Podcast, and my website is going to be linked in the show notes, lovebreezybreeyoga.com. If you've never practiced yoga, don't worry, there are many variations to yoga that is suitable for everybody. So definitely look into that, as it is such a healing modality and has such a beautiful effect on our mind, body, spirit. So thank you so much for allowing me to present you with this information in today's video. I look forward to you subscribing, hitting the thumbs up, that bell notification, and let's continue to do the work of our lives. Namaste.